Hi everyone, Brian Eade here, President of Michigan Insurance and Financial, here with...
And I'm Mick McNeil, Vice President of the agency. First and foremost, we just wanted to make sure that you and your families are safe and healthy given the current climate.
And we wanted to take a few minutes to share with you some videos that we shot with Rick Houghton. He is an attorney with Michigan Auto Law. Wanted to bring in a expert in this field other than us insurance guys. So take a few minutes, watch, and it covers some important topics that are all changing come July 2nd, 2020.
Yep. Special thanks to Rick. We really appreciate his help on this. And we just wanted to say that we really appreciate your business and the support over the years, and can't say thank you enough for that.
And feel free to share these videos with friends and family, as there's just not that much information out there. So we wanted to spend some extra time and really focus on what's changing so you can make better decisions to protect your family. Thanks again for your business. July 2nd, 2020, big changes coming to Michigan auto insurance with the Michigan No Fault Reform Act. We want to go over a bunch of options, bunch of changes, discounts, everything that's coming down the pipeline. I know pretty much all of you have heard something about that, and most of you have heard that it's a savings. We want to go through all the items that are actually changing on the Michigan No Fault auto insurance law, because it's not just the savings that is changing. When you give something, when the carrier gives something up, it's a give and take. You know, you're giving up coverage for a reduction of price. So what we want to do is we want to go through and make sure that you are properly educated before you click that mouse and make that change so your family is properly protected. Rick, tell us real quick, I know a big one is bodily injury. Right now, Michigan's a no-fault state where you basically can only be sued for death, disfigurement, and serious bodily impairment as of today. July 2nd, that changes, right?
That's correct.
What's changing with bodily injury?
So a few things, and I want to start with a basic thing that it's a common misnomer that people think that because we have no-fault law that they can't be sued in Michigan at all, and that's not true. No fault simply goes towards 5 coverages essentially. It goes towards medical bills, lost wages, it goes towards attendant care, replacement services, and finally medical mileage. The 6th coverage that hopefully none of your customers ever need is for survivor's loss benefits if someone is killed in a car crash. The part that you can be sued for now is your bodily injury. So if you're driving tomorrow and unfortunately you're in an at-fault crash where you hurt somebody, then you can be sued for that person's pain and suffering, their non-economic damages, as well as their economic damages to include lost wages after the 3-year no-fault amount is exhausted. Changing on July 2nd is if you are unfortunately involved in a motor vehicle crash whereby you hurt somebody catastrophically or over their no-fault limits that they have, and we'll get into that in a minute, Brian, then you can be sued for their excess medical. So what that means is if they incur $1 million in medical bills, you can potentially be on a hook for a large portion of those medical bills.
Yeah, and you know, when we're doing insurance day in and day out, you know, we see kind of the default is 100, 300. That's $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident. It's kind of the default go-to coverage. I know our agency really focuses on the $250,000, $500,000 and higher limits. The new Michigan law does require you to have the $250,000 per person, $500,000 per accident, and you have to actually opt out of that and sign a form to go lower than that. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. And the legislature did a couple of favors for us here where they changed the state minimums from 2040 to a minimum of 5,100. That's a big change for if somebody is uninsured, which unfortunately Michigan does still have uninsured drivers. But they set the default. So if you go online, which obviously I never recommend that people go online and pick their own policies, but if you do go online, automatically when you go in there, it's going to be set to $250,000, $500,000 coverage. And what that means is for each crash that you're at fault for, there is protections for you of $250,000 per person involved in the crash that you've injured, and $500,000 for the total crash for if there's multiple people that you injure. That is going to be your new state minimum versus the 100-300. And yes, if you want the 100-300 or the 50-100, you have to sign a form that's provided by you guys or by the Department of Insurance and Financial Services.
And that form is going to be required as of right now at every single renewal. So if you have a 6-month auto, you are going to have to sign a form every 6 months that says you want that 100-300. If you do not sign that form, the carrier by law has to increase your coverage to 250-500. So you could be in for a big surprise at your renewal if you do miss that form.
That's correct. And your premiums will go up because they will be rewritten to go to that coverage. And this is the insurance commissioner's way of protecting not only the agents, but the consumer as well. That way they're not having the wool pulled over their eyes, because the form's going to say something along the lines of that you understand that it's recommended that you have higher coverages, but that you're choosing to have these lower limits for a price savings.
Yep. And why is the state really going to a 250, 500 kind of minimum? Because the exposure's going up. You know, as Rick said, you know, you couldn't be sued for medical bills as of today. July 2nd, you hurt someone, they have lower limits on their medical, they can now come after you. So, you know, the importance of properly protecting your family with bodily injury coverage is going to be critical. And I don't even think 250, 500 is enough now. You know, hospital bills are not going down. The cost of treatment is not going anywhere. It's going up.
And unfortunately, crashes do happen. It's one of those things that no matter how many times we get on the road, we all presume that we're good drivers. But what we don't realize in today's day and age is there are so many distractions on the roads. There's cell phones, there's walkers, there's other vehicles. We live in an era where there are more distractions on our highways and byways than there's ever been in the past. And it's only getting worse with digital billboards that are changing as you drive by them. There's the flip billboards that they've had for several years now that change as you drive by them. Your cell phone beeps. All these things lead to moments of distraction, and it doesn't take long. All it takes is for that 1 millisecond distraction, and when you look back up, you've swerved into the other lane on a 2-lane road, or, heaven forbid, gone off the freeway, and it's too late to pull back.
Yeah, and you know, being a former police officer, you know, seconds of distraction is hundreds of feet of travel on a freeway. So, you know, we're all glued to our phone. No one leaves home without it. All the reason bodily injury is so important, and those with young drivers, extremely important. You can be sued for your kids' actions on the road. So since you're the responsible party or the owner of the vehicle, you might as well be driving the car at the time of the accident. Isn't that how the law interprets?
That's correct. So my favorite example is your neighbor comes over and wants to borrow your truck. For most of Michigan, somebody's neighbor is a truck, and we all need it once in a while. And you throw the keys to him, and he goes and he's going to pick up a load of lumber. And let's just say that he runs a red light and he kills a family of 4. And at that point, you basically just killed a family of 4. And as morbid as that is, it's the realities of the world that we live in. We do have vicarious owner liability in Michigan, and that puts you at fault for anyone driving your motor vehicle.
Yep. And if that guy has low limits, you know, it's going to exhaust his policy, and then you're next in line.
That's correct. So if he opted down to a $50,000 bodily injury limit, then you are on the hook for anything above and beyond that. So if in that very morbid example, somebody was killed and they had a $50,000 policy and you have a $250,000 policy and you have a lake home, your lake home is at risk, as is your boat that's at your lake home, as are any luxuries that you may have.
Yeah, and Michigan's loaded with luxuries. Everyone's got a cottage up north, camper in the driveway. You know, we're the largest state for boater registration. You know, everyone's got toys in your driveway. For a few bucks a month, you know, these coverages are dollars a month. to increase and have the proper protections.
They are, and that goes for, and I want to bring it even closer to home. As you have children who are getting to the age to drive or are still living at home in their early 20s when they're in college, you're on the hook for that as well. If, heaven forbid, they go out and they hurt somebody with one of your vehicles or their vehicle that you still technically own, you and your assets are at risk.
Yep, huge exposure out there.
And I know a lot of parents, they own their child's vehicle and they have their child as a driver. It's a very risky thing to do in that situation because it does save money overall having them not have their own insurance policy or own their own vehicle. But it does put you and your assets at risk versus having them own their vehicle and have their own policy.
Absolutely.